Um, so I guess we'll start off with first of all your interest. How did you have any interest in motorcycles?
Oh, when I was in high school, I lived in Richmond, California. This was back in the mid '40s, the '40s, And there's a Kellis Beach over there that the bay right across San Francisco there, and you could see the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It was a real nice view. And over there, the beach right across the street on the highway there, right across the street was a motorcycle clubhouse, and there was a bunch of guys that used to hang around over there and ride through there and everything, and had this chop, chopped up Harleys. This was right after the Second World War, and man, I took a liking to that. And I said, one of these days, I hope I can be like one of those. So I never, it was always in my heart to ride a bike. So one day, I don't know how it happened, but my father used to let me drive his Buick around. And sometimes he needed a car, and I had to take the bus and all that. And one of these Mexican guys I used to hang around with, his brother had one, there's Whizzer bicycle, motorcycle kind of thing, with a small tank, and you mix the gas and oil in there. And so I had a 22 rifle, and I traded the 22 rifle for that little Whizzer. But you had to pump in that goddamn thing, and then before it started, with gas and oil. So I rode that thing around till it just won't go no more. I didn't know how to take care of it. So it was always in my mind to ride bikes, but you know, it didn't come till much later, till after I was in the army and got married a whole bit, and I got into it in a weird way because I was raising 8 kids already at that time. Riding, it's a grown man with all the kids, and he's riding out the buddies out and stuff. So that's how I got started into it.
So, what was the first motorcycle that you purchased? What type and?
I tell you what. Then after I got married, we live in the projects, and working the fields, stuff like that. And the first 2 years I worked in the field, and then I got into a marriage there. My wife had 4 kids already when I married her, and so it was a little rough going. And then the freezer plant opened up over here, and I got hired, so I made much more money, double the money I was working in the fields. And my cousin used to have a Eagle Cushman scooter,
Hmm.
and I was living in Guadalupe I was living in Guadalupe and working in Santa Maria, and I said, I want to cut down, spend gas money, and so my wife could have the car when she needed it also, because she had to get around with the car, and so I went to the motorcycle shop to buy a motor scooter, and I saw a bunch of little motorcycles there, Japanese. No, it was Italian bikes, Ducati and all that. I said, for the same, and the scooter cost $300, and the Italian bike cost $300, same price. I said, hell, the Italian bike was Ducati was a regular motorcycle, so I bought that darn thing, 300. So I rode it home, and my wife said, I thought you were going to get the scooter. I said, well, let's go ride on it and see how you like it. So I gave her a ride around here a little bit, here and there, and she liked it. We took her to the lake. I didn't scare her. That's not the first thing. And then I had a little bit, and then my cousin's sister-in-law had a BSA, a 650 BSA, I think it was, a scrambler, and he said, hey, you want to buy? I'll sell you this bike if you want it. I said, yeah. How much do you want? You pay for it? He says, 350. You can have it. And so I rode it around, and but I didn't pay for it yet. He said you could keep it for a week, see how you like it. So I rode it around, but he didn't have no headlights. He didn't have no battery. It ran off my magneto. And I had to travel work between Guadalupe and Santa Maria. That was about 10 miles. Sometimes I get up at night, and I didn't have no lights going home. And so hardly ever saw no highway patrol those days. But that one night, man, The highway patrol got behind me and pulled me over the side. You know, he said, you ain't got no lights on this thing. You know, I said, I know. I was gonna have it set. I'll go see the dealer and have put everything in for me. He says, well, you know, I'll let you go, but you better not ride these highways at night anymore. They were pretty good those days, you know. So, so I went to the motorcycle shop over here and asked the mechanic, how much will it be cost me to put the lights and everything on there? He says, hey, I'll give you this, I'll trade you this, sell you this Triumph, you know, Thunderbolt or whatever it was, you know, a big one. He said, I'll sell you that bike for the price it cost you to put the lights on and everything, at $450. So I did. I got me on my Triumph that way. All right. So I rode a Triumph and kind of fixed it up and put the risers on it. They were about putting risers on the big bars, and had it repainted by the Japanese guy and everything. And then I went to the Harley shop. You know, I said, oh, I got me a motorcycle. You know, I wonder what I can buy to put on this thing and everything. I didn't know that you can buy it. You know, it was you go Harley shop. You had to be a Harley. You know. So I went in there and look around, and I got acquainted with the dealer. He said, hey, did you sign the book on the wait a minute, I'm jumping. Before that, I started riding around with these Mexican guys. Yeah, they were los borrachos, I think the drunkards, you know. I started riding around with them, and we started wearing the serape, you know, the Mexican blanket deal. Oh, look cool, man. I used to go around with them, you know, like that. But I only rode around with them for a little bit, but they were always drinking, and I never like to hang around the bars. So I went to the Harley dealership, and they said, when I was in, they asked me if I wanted to join the club. I said, you guys supporting a club? Yeah, there's a book in there. If we can get enough people to make a charter, you know, a club, we'll call you. So I went home and I told my wife about it. So she was excited. And the gas station that we always bought gas from was right around the corner from the Harley shop. So that was on a Monday, you know. So I got home, and when I got home, my wife said, "Come on, let's go to the meeting." What meeting? The Harley Club. They're having a meeting. I said, "What happened?" She said, "She went uptown, bought some gas. You know how we used to fill up the cars those days? $2 worth. You used to fill up your gas tank those days, you know. You just give me a couple dollars, and you know, to go on. Not like now. I just want to go block on that thing, you know." So I said, okay. So we went to the Harley dealer shop and started meeting the people and formed a club. You know, they call it Satellites. Or they didn't have a name yet, you know. So they had to have 12 people to make a club. So within a week we had 25 people. And so we got organized into what they call AMA. Because if you weren't the AMA, the other one was the one percenters. They were the outlaws. You know? So those AMAs were like family. But I'm glad we got into it because right was coming up was the Death Valley run. But before that, they had a poke run. That was a night poke run. And man, that was nice. I liked the way they did it, you know. And you know, meeting other people from different clubs that come, and it was you know, like family. And so I got kind of, you know, interested in it. So I became a charter member in that Satellite, they call it. It got to be one of the biggest clubs in Santa Maria before the Japanese bike came around. But at that time, the Japanese bike came around. That was 1963, I think, when the first bike came around. You know. In fact, my cousin that had a scooter bought one in little Honda 305s. You know. So, okay, so when we joined the club, the big run of the year of all they call the American motorcycle, sponsored by the American Harley Davidson dealers of Southern California, was the Death Valley run. That was a big run, I heard, you know. So we're looking forward to that, and I still had my Triumph, and we left in the evening because it's too hot to go across the desert during the day. So we left in the evening. There was like about 15 of us maybe, and I still had a Triumph, and that was a blast. I mean, because we rode from here and up to Trona. It's a little mining town, getting into Death Valley. Because we rode out here about like 6 o'clock in the evening, and you go to the backside of Howie uh, Tehachapi in the backside, and then you get down into the desert. And we could go as far as Trona for that night. Other bikers that came from other sides, Las Vegas, Frisco, they had other points that they can go to, but they couldn't leave until 9 o'clock the next morning. So our bunch that got into Trona stayed till 9 o'clock, but we stayed in the uh, parking lot by a drive-in theater in the desert. And man, all night long you just listen there laying down, you could, like the thunder, you could hear Harleys. So I said, man, I didn't know there was so many people riding Harleys. There was Limeys and all that, but the Harleys, you could see them, just boom, 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 boom. So I was all excited, and then, so next morning we signed in and everything and get our maps. You have to you have to have a map. I'll show you one later on. And then we got into Death Valley, Furnace Creek Ranch, and that's all you hear all day. Boom, 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 the thunder, And we stayed over the weekend, and then they have, how do you say, program? The longest distance rider, the prettiest girl rider, and best looking couple, bunch of trophies, long distance club, largest, all the way down. Lots of trophies. Okay, so we had a blast. It was real nice, and so wow, I was all excited. All of a sudden, I'm like in the movies. I'm among thousands, not only 5 or 6, but thousands. So we got up in the morning. It was cold. The wind was blowing. We used to go the last part of October, like Halloween time, because that's when it got cool enough, during the day for the ride. But that morning when we got up, the wind was blowing, it was cold. And then the rangers came and told us we can't go back the way we came in through Panamint Springs, and we had to go out to Death Valley Junction and go out there on, I forget the name of that town. You come out on the Highway 15, Baker. You come out to Baker. So we went out that way. Oh, and we didn't have helmets those days, to come to think of it. Like with that long hair and beard, that was playing the part like with the rest of the guys, But one of the guys that rode with us, his bike broke down. He had a bike, and the transmission, when the boat come out, the transmission would slide back and forth, and we couldn't get a boat to fit his bike. So good thing we had a when we used to go, we used to get a loaner from the Harley shop, extra pickup or a trailer with oil and material to fix the bikes on the road. And good thing, I forget the kid's name. His bike broke down. He didn't have he had to haul it. So he had his helmet. So my wife wore the helmet because the wind was blowing, cold. So we rode, the backside. Got out to Baker. Said, okay, I look at my gas tank, and I was making jokes with the Harley guys because it seems like they're always gassing up. They have big tanks. My bike, actually, I could go, long ways. You have to gas up twice when I make my one, So I said, well, okay, the next stop is Mojave. It's about 30 miles away, something like that. Oh, they were filling up there in Baker. I said, yeah, I got enough to go into Mojave. But, so Baker, not Mojave, was it? The next stop from
Barstow.
Barstow. Yeah, from Baker to Barstow. So when we went along, then all of a sudden I see the lead bike turning away from Barstow. Here's Barstow, but they're taking up the backside that way. I said, I ain't gonna make it. He said, Mojave. I said, I ain't gonna make it. So I gave her the gas as they were turning out. And just before the turn up, and the big black guy in front of me, saw me or something, he put his bike, stopped right away and hit him. When we was riding between the saddlebag and the fender, I guess. Next thing I know, I'm in the highway and I just hear it, bam, and I'm sliding, and I could hear the metal and hanging on my handlebar. Finally I feel the bike right beside my head. I'm sliding down the highway, and then I get up, And I hear brakes and everything. Cars will go. A lot of cars will go at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. A lot of people going home from Las Vegas. And and, finally I get my wits. I said, shit, I was all mixed up. I stood up and then look at my bike. It's laying there, and I see the handlebar got bent because I had risers. Look at my wife. And she's laying in the middle of the road, and everybody's running towards us. And she's over from here to that chair over there. She's laying down, not moving. I ran up to her, and my bike was past her, like by over there, my cook box. And I ran up to her, and, hon, yeah, I'm okay. She goes like that, and the guys pick her up. And I said, so I ran to my bike, and I looked at it, my handlebars, the battery was leaking. I said, the guy, never mind your bike. He says, go with these people. He says, we'll fix your bike, or we'll find you. Go with them. They'll find a hospital. Are you still on? And these people will find you. And it was a honeymoon couple, and a little Corvair, brand new Corvair that time. So I said, okay, so take care of my bike. Yeah, never mind. So they found a hospital. We went in there, and then so when we got in the hospital, the only guy that was on a Sunday, and the only guy on duty that time was a guy that, what do you call this guy? Deliver babies. They call us a name for them, He was the only one that was able to work on us, and on my wife and me. I had burns in my side here, asphalt burns, and I didn't know that I had a problem with shoulder at that time yet. And anyway, so the doctor that came to work with my wife, she had in the left leg here, she had 10 stitches inside, and then going to close it with 6 outside. And he worked on a really nice guy, And then he had to go deliver a baby. He said, I'll be back I'll finish the other one. I said, go ahead. And I told my wife, he sounds like he's a flip, man. You got an accent, And my wife said, yeah, he had Vincent in his name there, I said, well, his first name, And when he came back, I said, hey, what nationality are you? He said, I'm Filipino. I said, we are too. He said, oh, I thought you were Chinaman. And I said, so I thought you guys were Mexicans. that was funny. Filipinos not knowing we're Filipinos, Chopper, I had one of the best choppers here in the West Coast, and it used to draw a lot of people, and where I used to ride around, but along the way I had a growing hernia, and wait, before that, there was a run I went to, and the chopper people started coming around. They started building this. Trike people were coming around. They were building the strikes, of Volkswagen engines. And I said, so some of the guys in our club bought one. A couple guys. I said, I'll never own one of those. Those are car engines in there. What the hell? Got 3 wheels, And then, so I don't know. When I talk like that, sometimes I talk dirty because some things happen to me, And because during the fall, during strawberry season where I work at, I got hurt at work. I was bending these metal plates, with these benders, and I squatted and tore my groin. I had a hernia. And came to the Christmas party that we had and danced around, and I had to stop because my gut came through the hole in my muscles, And the doctor said, you better watch it because it's strangled down there. It'll kill you, So I had to get an operation, and they gave me a big hernia operation, sewed me up and everything. And the doctor said, you better watch it though. You don't strain yourself anymore because you can tear. So I said, shucks. And then that chopper, you have to kick start. Sometimes it starts right away, sometimes it don't, man. Sometimes, you have to learn how to kick it. But it was a pretty good bike, but still the hernia got to me, And in a way, I had an electrical problem with it, and I brought it to the Harley shop, and this Eric Hiss that used to ride with us also was a mechanic there. And I asked him if he could set me up with fuse box in there. I didn't have one. And when I went to pick up the bike, and he rode it, he said he rode that bike. He said that's the smoothest Harley I ever rode. He didn't vibrate or nothing. I said, wow, that was they had a shape. They have a how do you say the 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 the, the call they hopped out of the motor, but it was what they call there was a word that they used to say when they hop at the motor.
Hmm.
Uh, and they shaved the flywheel and all that. I gained more RPM the whole bit. And anyway, so one day, no, I said no, I don't want to sell it yet, but I was concerned about my hernia and to kick it. Oh, we went to Mexico. Yeah, we went to Mexico, and I rode my truck over there, but sometimes it would start, sometimes it would right away, and I had to call the other guys to help me start. I couldn't stay on it very long because I could feel the gut pulling out. Before that was before the hernia operation. Yeah, and so up and back I had to have guys help me start it. That's when I got kind of discouraged. And then the Christmas party when it came out, then I got my operation going back. So one day I was sitting there laying here in the couch watching football game on a Sunday, and I heard a bunch of Harleys outside. Oh man, I ain't gonna go. I gotta so what's the game? Then the guy's coming through my garage and come in the house. Yeah, what's happening? He says, hi, Eric says, I was looking now. Oh, before that, one time I went to the Harley shop, and Eric we was talking in there, and then we walked out the door together and had my Harley parked in the curb. And he said, "You want to sell it bike?" I said, "No, heck no." I said, "Why, man, that's the smoothest Harley I ever rode." He said, "You don't want to sell it?" I said, "I'll buy it." I said, "Nah, I don't want to." So, like, getting back to the story, I was laying down here watching something on TV that day, and I didn't want to go no place. It was on a Sunday. But I heard a bunch of Harleys come up to the house. And I didn't get up. I just lay there and said, I ain't going to answer the door. But they opened the door and walked in, all those guys. And it was Eric. He said, what the hell you guys doing, man? He says, oh, I came down here and I was I was looking. Oh, wait, here, John, get back again. He told me one time if if I was willing to sell the trike, the bike, the chopper. And I said, no, not yet. He says, well, let me know when you get ready. He said, I'll trade you the trike or it. And I says, well, I'll let you know later. So that Sunday they come here to the house, and there he comes. He says, I was thinking about we talked about whether you want to trade or not. And I says, well, I've been thinking about it. This is so Monday he comes. He come with the papers and all. He says, it's now or never. So we traded a trike for the chopper. His intentions was he was going to make money on that trike by selling it to an airman that was from the East Coast that was going back and get more money out of it. But I got what I so the money I got for and I got some money too for that's right for the chopper and some money. And so that money I got it in wait, I sold. What the hell happened? I had enough money to oh wait, that was later on. I'm getting mixed up. Okay, I got the chopper. I got the trike, and I went on several rides with it, and my wife liked it. Yeah, that's right. I went several rides. I kept it about a couple of years, and then Eric comes back, and he wants to buy it back off of me. I said, "What happened?" I saw a chopper. Some guy from the airman from New York was going back, and he got good money out of it. I said, "You son of a bitch, man! I thought he was gonna keep it." He says, "Well, okay. How about uh, I'll sell you back the trike, and then if Doug Townsend, L.A. will build me one." So he gave me the money, and then we went to L.A. and talked to Doug Towns, and he built me out the trike when exactly what I wanted. Everything he had, everything displayed over there. So when he got done with it, him and his club drove it to the house, delivered it for me, and then I didn't like the two carburetor setup. They had a Weber or what this carburetor they had for those uh, Volkswagen engines. And it seems like every time I want to go on the trip, it would foul up on me, and I have to get adjusted. So I called Doug. I said, I'm not satisfied with the carburetor. He said, you know what? He said, they got this setup, a new setup, manual setup that would take a two-barrel carburetor off the Pinto and go on it. You know, you don't have to mess with dual carburetors. And so I said, okay, uh, what he did, he came over here. He rode here with his club, a tri club, picked up my machine, took it to LA, and come back a couple of weeks later, I had my big carburetor in there. So that was a deal that he had, you know. And so what did I do with this? I still have the trike right now. It's just like new still. You had a new motor put in there. I blew it after the last biker down, you know. I blew it coming down the grade and everything. I blew it Sunday going down the grade, going like hell. The main motor blew. I coasted away to the bottom. Called AAA. They took me home. That was Sunday. Called the German Motors the next day. Brought it to the shop Wednesday. Got it off Friday. Took it to the Guadalupe Motor Car Show. Got me first place trophy for it. Pretty good, huh? Yeah. So I still got that thing, you know. I think I wheeled the bike to my great grandson. They had him over here the other day. Yesterday they were here, and my great grandson, now his father is my grandson. You know, he's a veteran of the Gulf Wars, and he said, "Yeah, I get to drive it first, huh?" I said, "Well, as long as the kid's too small to drive, I mean, you could take care of it, but you know, he goes to him." So that's the setup right now. He goes to the kid, you know. You know, all the time I've been riding bikes from 1958 until 2000, what is it now, 2014? I think it was around 2011, 2007, 6, 2006, or right around the area, you know. But yeah, you know, one of my friends, this Filipino guy, he's a karate instructor here, and he's got a Harley, and he went to the Harley shop, and when he went there, he saw a Filipino uh, motorcyclist, Harley rider, from that belonged to San Francisco Phil Am Riders Club, you know. And I just, you know, I've been riding for how many years, and I never hardly ever saw any Filipinos riding bikes. And the ones I know now, they're probably all dead. I hardly ever see each other, you know. And some married couples here and there, but maybe the most out of there was uh, 4 or 5, and then there was a club in Stockton, the Peacemakers. They were like family, and but I never knew. I didn't know that there was another Phil Am Riders Club out of San Francisco. So uh, Rudy told this guy about me. You know, there's a Filipino guy that's got a motorcycle here, and so to give him their email address. You know, so he gave it to me. Told me about his encounter meeting that guy, and you know what that email address was? He says, "Puntit is what I ate." You know, so I kept it, and I got into the website, and that's how I got to meet Roy Cavalar. Yeah, he was the first one I got to talk with, and he said, "Yeah, there's a couple Filipino clubs, and they got websites. You could visit our websites, you know." So I got on it, and I was excited. I said, "Oh, there's 2 or 3 clubs here, the Frisco and LA, and there's another one someplace." And they talk to each other and show their meets and events that they're putting on. I said, "Wow, these guys are getting along okay." So one time I visited their website, and they had a run scheduled to go to Big Sur. This was about 2007, something like that. And Uh, so I called, and I visited the website and I see this program that they had set up, and this one that coming up was for camp out over there at Big Sur, that particular weekend. So I visited the Rancheros, Juan de la Cruz site there in LA someplace, and Peter Laxon was the one that I got in touch with, and I told him who I was and how how I got their address, and I told him I'm an old timer riding old Manong, and I says I wish I could go along with you guys. I can go, but I know if you're going to Big Sur, meet up with the Frisco guys. Now these guys from LA. I said uh, I'd like to meet you guys at the Harley shop. You guys are passing by Santa Maria. And Peter writes back and says, we'll meet you in Guadalupe because they don't ride the freeways; they ride the back roads. So it was arranged. It was arranged that I'll meet them in Guadalupe that Saturday, I think it was. And I told my nephew about them. He said, "Come on with me." So the day that we're going to meet in Guadalupe, I called my friends from Guadalupe, Joe and Margie Logan. They took care of the this uh, this house over there. They what would you call it? Kind of a historical shop there. They keep tell about the old timers, you know. So anyway, uh, I told George and Margie to 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 go to Victoria's to be there when those guys come in. Call me when they come in. So when they got into Victoria's, the riders of Rancheros, and Margie and Joe were there already. They introduced themselves. So then me and my nephew rode in, and they saw us coming in. They had a big window in front of the restaurant, into the big parking lot in front, and they saw us pull in, and then the guy get on my truck, my nephew. We walked into the restaurant, and Joe and Margie said, "These are the guys," and we introduced each other already. So I met them. He said, "You know what? This is you Manong Ernie." I said, "Yeah." He said, we were looking for an old Manong." He said, "Yeah, uh, I'm Manong Ernie." Yeah, but what do you think? But we were looking for an old Manong, he'll walk like that, hunch over, but you're just like us. I said, "I am." But you look like us. He said, "I am." That was funny, And so, went to, and then so we went, after we ate, we went with Joe and Margie to the, what the hell do you call this place? This building, historical site building. So we brought them over there to show the stories of the Filipinos that came into this valley and work and got married, kids raised around the whole story about. And they were surprised because they didn't know about the lifestyle of the Filipinos, the old timers that came here, how we worked hard in the fields and things like that. A lot of history. And they said, we'll call, you know what? We'll call the San Francisco guys and let's have a get together here next month again. So they called the Frisco guys and we met Wancheros and the Phil Amps. Not all the whole club, but like a dozen members from each or half a dozen. I think there was about 25, 24, 25 altogether between the two clubs. And they met at the, what you call it, at the Joe and Margie's shop there, and we had eats for them, and then we talked about how about this Filipino, some kind of a memorial marker was coming up, historical year or whatever it is in the Philippines. Maybe we could have a gathering in Guadalupe, right here, and get all the bikers to come in. And Taco would be said, yeah, it'd be nice, but can you imagine this town full of Filipino motorcycle riders all over? Because they didn't know at that time it was just them, their club, and Phil Lambs, and they said there was a few, um, you know, those guys riding this crotch rockets, But I said there was probably some other few clubs that could start up and become full-fledged riding club. So we just said, yeah, I said, let's, because I had uh, uh, experience already how to help putting on these runs, from my old motorcycle club. I said, I'll see how much it'll cost to have it here in town. which was too much, because we had to pay police protection, everything, rentals, and the whole bit. So that came out. But before I forget now, before I got contacted the LA guys, one Sheriff Pete and them, I had another chance to meet the Phil Lamb group first before Pete and them. Uh, uh, about a year before that, this Ray Volador, I told you that met the Filipino writer at the Harley shop, told me that he got in touch with that Ray Volador, Romeo, Romy Volador from Frisco, that they were coming to Pismo because Ray Volador, Romy had a house there in South Beach, in Pismo Beach, and they were coming for a ride up that way, and that did, bring me along to meet them. So I went down there with Romy, Ray, to wait and wait. And didn't come at the appointed time, and I had to get home at 4:30 because I had a call from the Philippines coming in. That by 4:30 time, our time, and that's coming at 6 o'clock. So I went home, and then those guys came later, so I missed out on that one. So I would have met the Frisco guys before I met the LA, if that right came on. But anyway, I did meet them when the LA guys came. We met together in Guadalupe. I don't know if you follow me, okay? And then, so out of that meeting, what did we talk about? I got stumped there now.
The Sequoia.
Huh?
You guys are deciding another place besides Guadalupe. You're going to go to maybe have another agenda place, possibly Sequoia.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think they made a trial run to one of the guys suggested Sequoia. They said they go get a campsite there. But no more than 50 vehicles. They had to know how many people were coming. So that's where we had our first camp out. I think it was at the Sequoias. Yeah, that was a night. There was about 50 riders total that time. So that was the beginning, I think. Of it wasn't called a Biker Dahan yet, but that was the first gathering. And then when all those bikers came, we were the first ones there. Me and my nephews. They said, "Where's all the bikers?" I said, "They're supposed to come in," but little by little, they came. You know what I liked about it? Because when I used to go to the other biker runs, events that we used to go to, you used to hear a lot of noise, with the bike wrapping it up and everything, wrapping it up, coming in, coming out. But these guys, the highway was up above. You come down into a campsite over there in the Sequoias. They come down, they park their bike nice, calm, get off and shake your hands, meet each other. What other club? Little by little, they were all coming in. We had about, the campsite accommodated 50 people. They said maybe that was bike, cars, or what, but there was more than that. Maybe 100, maybe I don't know. But I thought it was a lot for Filipinos, and I got pictures of it someplace in the books there. But they're not real nice. Really enjoyed it. And so now they had the number one, two over there in Peter Lake, and one in what's that name over there?
Lake Isabella.
Lake Isabella.
There's Lake Don Pedro.
Don Pedro coming up again in September. They're not big now.
Yeah.
How many did they have last time?
We lost count. There was hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, we're going to be bigger this year.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of Filipino on the road now with Harleys.
It's a busy room, huh?